Indiacharts publishes Nifty daily video updates, the weekly Elliott Wave outlook, and the long-short report covering all asset classes.
So Nifty is going along just as we've been anticipating, above 18,000. So every day we can worry about, oh, will it stop here? But essentially there's no sign of that happening. Now we're at the top end of this parallel channel. But if this is indeed 1, 2, 3, then this is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 going on. It's nowhere, the third wave is nowhere complete. Alternate, of course, if you're trying to take this whole as a running triangle truncated, then this is just the start of wave 3. But I'll stick with this because truncated E's are rare, and so I will take it as the less rarer outcome. And so Nifty is on its way. Bank Nifty is showing more strength today, at least intraday. But of course, overall it's been a laggard. But definitely, if the Nifty is headed higher, the Bank Nifty is going to tag along. So if we stick with this wave count, 5, 4 done here, 5 started. The same thing here. We'll take this as 1 and 2 and 3 of 5 now going on. And that should take us higher from where we are right now towards maybe 39,000. And so can we really come up with any immediate number? I think 18,200 has shown up a couple of times, and I had written it for in some calculations. 18,100 also was there. So there's the weekly or weekly Bollinger Band, I think closer to 18,200. So that's the next level we'll watch, but essentially it has to complete 5 waves. So if this is 1, 2, 1, 2, then 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. When we are done with all of that, only we can think about, coming close to the end of this move, and we are, so I don't know if that can really complete at 18,100, and so I would be open to it extending a little more than that. Now, in terms of mid caps, small caps, also doing small cap index has really been off the chart. So, but this mid cap index has shown throughout this wave, like it did 2, then it did this flag, broke out ahead of Nifty, clearly showing the way that broad market is strong, and that's one of the reasons why we've been able to maintain our view, is that you're not really seeing a sell-off in stocks, which you saw last month, and that has turned, and therefore strength in individual stocks has been much greater than the market. There was some fear in my head over the weekend when I was looking at this metal setup. Some of the stocks gave up from this. Now if you argue A, B, C, D, E and it will fall, it's not done that. It's actually picking up. So far it seems to be in line with the expectation that a larger something, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 may not be correct. We've already discussed in the weekend with Indiacharts. I can take this entire as a larger fourth wave triangle. And so we only start the impulse wave from this low. And this initial overlapping could simply be wave 1 and 2 of a leading diagonal, or you end up marking 3 1s and 2s. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And what we should get is a series of third waves from here. And that's essentially what I wanted to see getting confirmed. So far, by moving higher and not breaking the lower end of this line, we are getting some signs that yes, the thesis is still on course. And the other way to look at it is, yes, look at the underlying commodity prices. So whenever there's fear that commodity prices will give up, we're starting to cover a couple of them, like lead, for example. So in lead, when we look at the big picture, which we are trying to discuss, you see a series of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, because it's all overlap. And so the only way is going to be series of third waves longer term had to start at some point of time, and now probably this rally looks like it has started, and that means, you can imagine what series of third waves means. I don't even want to imagine, because it's way beyond to think at this point that you're going to go to 2,800 or 3,000 or beyond that in lead is like hard to believe that is the reflation trade. So far it's not happened. Every time it gives up. But even if we maintain the give up scenario, if we've completed the recent correction, we have one more rally just like the previous ones, then also equally in size to the last rally, you would end up at 2,500. So let's see. The point is, we are seeing some breakouts, like for example in copper, I was saying if this is the last triangle, we are now trading today outside of it. So a further sign that maybe the bottom is in place. After all, daily sentiment index at 8% bullish only, which means 92% were bearish on copper. Down here, maybe a sign that the worst is done, and aluminium continued to lead, right? So wave 4 and 5, we've already discussed. 5 is starting, and that's going on. So essentially, when we see nothing wrong here, then we don't worry about what the dollar really means. Zinc also tried to fall, but again it's broken past the previous high. This is what has happened over and over again. Every commodity fear in zinc has led to a short-term sell-off, but still a higher low and eventually a higher high, and therefore the larger trend has remained intact. That is the main thing. Nickel was slightly more difficult, but I'm trying to take it as a broad A, B, C or WXY running correction. And oil was probably the signal. I think last week I mentioned, wrote one note on oil and equity. Oil was a lead signal both for commodities and equities doing well, once it picked up, that sort of the demand environment is okay. Now you remember OPEC's already put some kind of increase in production very slowly to happen. So they're maintaining the supply glut. At the same time, for prices to rise, demand also has to play in. So it's a function of both, right? You can, when you increase supply, you're increasing it to the extent that demand is picking up and trying to make sure prices don't fall too much. At the same time, if prices have to go up from whatever base we form, so if we say $61 was the base, the move from 61 to 80 would only happen if there was some kind of demand environment. So something is there, and then that is sort of shows up in all the other commodity prices. So the only thing which is not happening in this theorem is the dollar itself falling, while everything that rises during a dollar fall is rising anyway. So that's, I think, the setup. And so the metal index is doing well, 2.2% up right now, in which I think Hindalco is actually doing better after many days. Basically after the pullback, we'll just come there. I'm just trying to look at what else. The PSU index should start its next extension. This is wave 3 as discussed. I think on the daily chart, I would have marked it as 4. And if I didn't, then 4 is done. And now we are starting 5, right? So 4 of what degree of a larger node? This is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3, 4 and 5. 2 rallies, 1 correction pending. So this is the first of the rally to complete a 5-wave advance. You'll get 1 rally, 1 pullback and 1 more rally. So we're not done on the 5-wave, and we started now the 5th of the 3rd, let's put it that way. And the 5th of the 3rd, how far could it go? We'll see. Based on time of the last few rallies, 3 to 4 days. So another 2-3 days of up move in the PSU stocks. Okay, not saying PSU banks in general, but PSU stocks, because that's what we are able to see. Now here you can see Hindalco, and I'll actually switch to the day chart to make more sense of it. So on the day chart, it's basically pulling back to the averages. Here it did the 40-day, rallied again. Here it tried to break the 20-day. I was a little concerned it may go down to the lower band, but again it's trading up. So end of the day, if it manages to close above the 20-day and positive, it will look like, maybe it didn't want to complete the cycle and just wants to extend. And this will be one more 1 and 2. So series of 1s and 2s occurring here. This impulse was there, this impulse, and then here again with an expanded flat. And then again it will attempt to go higher with the underlying commodity prices is what we'll be watching out for. And so similarly in most of these individual metal stocks, Nalco is more lethargic probably because it went into ban after this last 6% bump up. And so the stock is pretty flat. Probably if it comes out of that, it may move more. And NMDC is trying to close above the 40-day average. So that's what the metals are doing. They're sort of holding out to the idea that this is a triangular correction which already happened once. So which is why actually I wouldn't expect it to happen again. But yeah, just the look of it, for a day makes you feel, whether that's happening. So I'm just trying to show you, maybe I'll go to the daily chart only, that there was a triangular structure here prior to the last fall. So we had tried to think whether this was a bottoming triangle and it broke to the downside. So once you've had a triangle structure, triangles occur in 4th phase or B waves or before the final move, then this rise, which may appear wedgish, the odds are low, is what I'm thinking, that it will again be a bearish triangular structure. So that only happens once, and this should have meant that this is the last fall, and therefore 1, 2, 1, 2 is my preferred count. Or maybe this whole thing, this is the triangle. Actually the triangle is like this, which is the bottoming case, A, B, C, D at the lows. And you're actually just starting wave 1 from this low over here. That this is more plausible to me than taking it as a rising wedge. That's what I'm thinking, unless the market proves otherwise. That should be the case, and the commodity prices are indicating that you stick with that. If they're all going up, then stocks have to sooner or later reflect what is happening in the underlying. Within PSU stocks, the stronger ones may remain stronger, or some others may pick up, like ONGC has been the strongest. Still not completed its third wave on the weekly chart. So will it stay that way? And then if we go to GAIL, which I thought would have picked up, but is back to the 20-day. Now at the 20-day, I can say risk is low. Will it pick up again like it did back here? But it's not shown so far the speed that the others have shown. That's all. Just because it's not happened doesn't mean it can't. At the same time, do you want to chase trend? That's always a question mark. And what else has been there? The other strong one has actually been coal, which has been so much in the news because of the power shortage, right? So, but in terms of waves, I thought this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So is it done? But if it closes positive today, this last fall, I don't know whether it's impulsive or not. And so if it's not 5 waves down, this fall is not 5 waves down, then we can always get an extension. And so will 13 become 17? I can't say yes, and at the same time, it's possible. But if this high goes, then yes. So till that happens, and because the PSU rally is still on, so that is how you have to think back and forth. And people ask me, how do you really ride an extension? When do you sense it's over or not? And you have to use a series of multiple tools depending on how far you want to go. Are you happy with 13, or you want to simply look at this higher high, higher low, higher high? So previous swing low is not breaking, not breaking, not breaking, not breaking, not breaking. Even this correction didn't go below this previous low. So in terms of higher high, higher low, classic Dow theory, the trend is still on. So then, if somebody really wanted to just wait for the last thing to happen, then he would wait to the swing lows. That means you can't catch the top, but you want to make sure that you ride the most of the move. And at the same time, if you're happy with 13 waves done, you would be out of the trade and start searching for something else. So that's purely a question of perspective. So anyway, I'm just discussing analysis on these stocks. None of it is advice. We're simply looking at setups and how we can use them to our advantage to understanding the markets using both the combination of elliott waves and support and resistance levels, indicators and trend lines and moving averages. That's the model. And so having looked at that, like I said, none of it is advice. Use it wisely.